Frank Carbone joins me live now. Thanks for joining us, Frank. First up, your own future. I know you've said you're thinking about running. Why don't you lay your cards on the table? Are you gonna run for the Senate as a as a representative of Western Sydney?
Well, we have. Obviously, I'm working with Di Lee, and obviously I've got a local government election coming up, so I'll be concentrating on that, and I love my local area. But of course, I also see the suffering of people in Western Sydney. People in Western Sydney are doing it really tough, and I think that people in Western Sydney, there's more than 3 million people here in Western Sydney, and we are really a powerhouse of New South Wales, and I just don't think at the moment there is enough representation for this community who are doing it tough. You know that things are bad when a working couple that work 40 hours each every week cannot afford to buy a new home. That's a real problem. Energy prices, all those sort of things. Yep.
So obviously Di Lee's going to be able to hang on to her seat in the lower house. She's been a very popular member. She's had a good profile in Canberra. You're going to run on a ticket with her and represent Western Sydney in the Senate if you can get elected. What will you call yourselves?
Well, we haven't made that decision yet. What we know that we're doing is actually calling we're only a very small team. We're independents. We don't have millions of dollars in the bank like the big parties, but we've set up a party. Basically, it's calling Western Sydney Community. It's about the people. We know that Tasmania has 12 senators, for example, and they have a population of 500,000 people. In Western Sydney, has a population of 3 million people. So we're calling ourselves Western Sydney Community. We're basically locals, a local voice for locals, and we just want to make sure that we hold major parties to accountable. We see what Di's done locally. She's done a great job. I mean, we never know what's going to happen with the electorate, so you can't say that Di's going to win. But what we will say is that we'll always keep on working together to make sure that Western Sydney has its representation. So the first step of that is setting up the party name, representing your community, making it really clear about what you stand for and who you stand for. And after, when the federal election comes up, we'll be making that decision on how we run and where we run. And of course, the upper house, so the Senate seat, is an option for me and for others as well. So we'll be considering that at the time.
All right, I want to get your thoughts on this Muslim Vote organisation. Big Muslim populations in Western and southwestern Sydney. I think Pauline Hanson mentioned earlier there's 813 Muslims in Australia. She obviously meant 813,000, and hundreds of thousands of those people are in Western and southwestern Sydney. What is your thoughts? If the Muslim communities do vote largely as a bloc, would that be the end of some of those Labor ministers if under preference deals with other parties?
Well, I don't think any MP wants a large minority group or significant group to vote as a bloc against them. Nobody would like that. But my own personal views is, and I mean, we are a democratic society and anybody can run, I guess. I'm not really a big fan of groups running on a religious platform because I think that politicians are there to serve everybody, no matter what their background or what their religion or what their faith. We shouldn't really be about faith, but that's a decision for them to make. But obviously it will be challenging for the Labor Party if you have a group of Muslims running. I'm not part of that organisation. I'm certainly not part of their campaign. I don't even know who's behind it. But, I mean, obviously the more groups run, the harder it is for any sitting MP because it does split their vote ways.
You know the issues and the community values of these areas. Fatima Payman, the Labor senator from Western Australia, is obviously a focus at the moment. She's expected to lead the Labor Party within days, and she could be the figurehead, if you like, of a national movement on these issues. And then, of course, animated by the current war in Gaza, the war between Hamas and Israel. And this is the sort of thing that Fatima Payman has been saying.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Now, do you think this issue in the Muslim communities in southwestern Sydney and Western Sydney will play a role in the electoral politics of the next election?
Look, everyone's going to have their own views, and I think different things mean different to different people. But my view is at the moment it's about cost of living. I mean, people aren't really interested in that. The majority of people are just concerned about how they're going to put food on the table and how they're going to put a roof over their heads. I've never seen things so tough out here for families. And people in Western Sydney who are paying 49 cents per litre to travel and they travel more than anywhere else because, quite simply, there is no metros, there is no light rails, there is no public transport. It's people in Western Sydney with large families that are impacting. And I don't know about that. I think that's a matter for the Labor Party and how they're treating that. And as I said, I don't like bringing in religion and overseas issues into this country because I think ultimately people just want to fix their own issues up in their own backyard. When we can fix our issues in our own backyard, then we can talk about other people's issues, I think.
Frank, if you do get elected to federal parliament on a ticket in an organisation grouping with Di Lee, I remember her being sworn in that fantastic Australian flag dress. So I hope you'll be sworn in an Australian flag suit as well.
I'm going to have to get my own suit. Is that what you're saying? Look, Nobody can wear a dress or a suit like Di. I'll tell you, I'm not going to even try and compete. But Di's doing a great job. And look, I think it's important that local people fight for their local communities, and that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to raise a lot of issues. We don't want our communities to be neglected.
Thanks for joining us, Frank. I appreciate it. Fairfield Mayor Frank Carbone there. The politics of Western Sydney getting more and more complicated every day is going to be a big factor in the looming federal election.